Maps are everywhere. They can show what places look like, which paths to take, where things are, all that fun stuff. Many maps come in different shapes and forms, and some of them could be rancid. Like this one right here. This is a map of the world, as drawn poorly by people for the board game of Risk. Seems like a good map overall, but there is a number of flaws. Emperor Tigerstar made a video in making the Risk map better, and Caden has an in how to expand in that idea. I'm the Microsoft Sam of the latter person's YouTube channel, and here is Caden's expansion of Tigerstar's Risk map idea. First up, here is most of the video of Tigerstar explaining the flaws and his idea for improvements.
So the map for Risk is awful. I mean, if I wasn't aware of this board game and was submitted a map like this, I'd feature it in my Bad Map series. I feel like it's one thing when it's something like the 1950s to have a world drawn so poorly, but in the modern day, it shouldn't be that hard to print off a map that has accurate coastlines or proportions. Not to mention, a lot of things are missing. I get it, there's no point in showing every little island, especially since you wanted to zoom in a bit so something like the tiny Pacific Islands would be cut off from the edge, giving you more room. And also, showing tiny islands like Bermuda and Malta would be pointless. But there's no islands north of Canada, no Caribbean at all, no Sicily or Taiwan, also New Zealand and the Philippines just don't exist, and why is New Guinea somehow further north than Borneo? I feel like the map wanted to zoom in as much as possible, so they moved some areas around to squeeze it in more, but it's just awful. I feel like you could shorten the Atlantic Ocean and zoom in enough to keep the normal proportions for the land and it would look fine. Then we also have some problems with the regions. Sure, you're combining multiple areas, so there probably won't be a perfect name. So calling this area Argentina, fine. There's more than Argentina here, but Argentina is the majority of the area, so it makes sense. Meanwhile, over in Asia, we have this spot being called Afghanistan, and the problem with that is none of this area contains Afghanistan. Meanwhile, the area labeled as India clearly does have modern-day Afghanistan. This weird labeling has bothered me since I first played the game in 5th grade. The other thing that bothers me is that this area is called North Africa instead of West Africa like it clearly should be. As bad as these labels are though, they aren't as hilariously bad as the ones for Risk 2210 AD. Basically, this is a form of Risk that's supposedly set in the future, but the regions on the map are exactly the same except they added a few zones in between continents, and weirdly expansion map boards for Antarctica, the Moon, and Mars. Apparently, East Africa got taken over by Djibouti, and India united with Pakistan to form United Indiastan. But Afghanistan is still there and in the wrong place, so clearly this has a lot of problems too. Anyways, the Risk map has some problems, so how could we make it better? Firstly, make the coasts and proportions accurate. If you want to ignore some tiny islands, go for it, but don't have it look like this. Don't get rid of New Zealand or the Philippines either. I also think you should add more land bridges. I'd personally make the Pacific Islands a single territory that you can have to invade South and North America to keep things interesting. Maybe also from Madagascar to India. I feel like it helps defeat the idea that South America and Australia are corners that people can build up their forces in to win, because the old joke is that if you want to win in Risk, you have to have Australia first. And if we're going to connect Australia and South America, give those two continents 3 bonus troops per turn instead of 2, just to make it fair. Basically, this is how my map would look. Obviously, making this sort of thing on Microsoft Paint won't look as nice as if it was made with a studio and printed on a giant foldable piece of cardboard. By all means, steal these altered territories and names. Use these ideas. If I saw a new version of Risk with it looking like this, I'd buy it in a heartbeat.
Looking at this map, Caden has been inspired to come up with some ideas for improving the map. Especially the idea to make the Pacific Islands a single entity. His idea would involve a fictional lost continent known as Mu. This continent was alleged to have been the birthplace of civilizations like Egypt and the Mayans, until it sunk beneath the ocean just like Atlantis. Based on what is described by the creators of this debunked theory, Mu was alleged to stretch as far north as Hawaii, as far west and north as the Ladrones, as far south as Mangasia, and as far south as Easter Island, while also spanning over island chains like Fiji. Mu would look to be a similar shape as the entire island of New Guinea. Now, If Caden was to create a map of the world with Mew in it, it would have to be Pacific-centered to make it easier for him. Long story. Then again, Hasbro Gaming might have the skills to make it Atlantic-centered. The continent of Mew itself could be divided into territories, whatever ideas Caden and or Tigerstar could come up with. Going back on that idea of extra land bridges, there could be another extra continent that could be added and divided into territories. Lemuria, a hypothesized land bridge or continent thought to have existed in where the Indian Ocean is today. If a land bridge, it would have connected Australia, India, and Madagascar to each other. If a continent, it would still look similar to its land bridge geography, like what Zealandia Mapping came up with in his alternate future of the world videos. Possible names for this Risk game could be things like Greater Risk, or Risk, Lost Continents. The only way for Hasbro to develop such a game is to see the potential for it. In other words, the opportunity of the profits they could make off of this. Whatever ideas you could have for improving the Risk map, comment down below, and Caden hopes to tell Emperor Tigerstar about them. This is Microsoft Sam signing off. And remember to rate, comment, and subscribe for more videos, and follow Caden on his other social media pages to catch up with him and his ideas.